guys, and welcome to today's review. It's another late one. So as you can see, today I am reviewing season 1 of Jupiter's Legacy. I watched this the day it dropped on Netflix, and I stayed up all night binge watching it because I could not get enough of it. And then I prepared my review, and like with virtually every review on my frickin' channel, I didn't get up on camera and record my feelings on it. So now it's almost like, who cares? Everybody has said everything there is to say on Jupiter's Legacy, but I still really like this show, so I really want to talk about it. So I'm gonna talk about it, and if you don't want to hear me talk about it, then you just won't click on this video, and you have no idea what I'm saying because you didn't click on this video. The cogs are turning. Anyway, I hope wherever you guys are, you're a lot warmer than me. I'm freezing my ass off, so let's just hurry up and get into this review. Jupiter's Legacy is a 2021 Netflix superhero series developed by Stephen S. DeKnight based on the comic book series of the same name by Mark Millar. In this series, the first generation of superheroes has kept the world safe for nearly a century. Now their children must live up to their legacy in an epic drama that spans decades and navigates the dynamics of family, power, and loyalty. Family, power, and loyalty, an accurate synopsis if ever I saw one, and those aren't as common as you think. Now the comic series was published in 2013, so it is very hard to watch this and not see where and how it was influenced by superheroes who came before. There is a lot of strong influences from Watchmen, I would say, and the Justice League, and I don't think that's a bad thing. Comic books have been around for like 100 years, and we have seen superheroes from every walk of life with every power imaginable. It's going to be hard to not compare newer incarnations to the old stuff, but what this does and what I loved about it is it dives into dynamics and psychology of superheroes that is rarely discussed on screen. I'm not saying superheroes have never tackled these things, but I don't think outside of Watchmen, a show or film has gone that far in on our heroes and really dared to humanize them. The series follows 2 timelines, and this could have been dicey, but they really time the switches very well. We jump between the present and the events of the late 1920s to 30s, where our main superheroes got their powers, and then back. But when we jump to the story set in the past, there is a mental or emotional connection in storyline that makes the transitions very well placed and created a very rich and detailed story. This series covers PTSD, grief, survivor's guilt, burden and responsibility, existential crisis, anxiety, depression, addiction, cognitive dissonance, and more. The writers knew what they were doing. These writers, I believe, have experience with family dysfunction and therapy because it was hella accurate, and boy was I here for it. Growing up watching superheroes on the screen, I always ask myself, how do they not break emotionally? How can anyone carry the weight of the world and be okay? How can someone put their lives in harm's way all the time and be okay? How do you have a family? When you have a family, how would the job impact it? How do you handle the expectations of the world? And who handles city repairs? Every single question is covered in a single episode and expanded throughout the entire series, and it is so awesome. Josh Duhamel plays Sheldon Sampson, the Utopian, and what a fascinating psychological specimen. Sheldon is the leader of the Union and formed its code to protect, never to harm or kill, and not to govern. The series covers everyone's conflicting struggles with the code and his struggle to maintain it. Sheldon is having a serious existential crisis and clearly has a lot of PTSD, mostly surrounding the death of his father. His father's death set him on his path, but also molded the man he became. In his determination to not be like his father or be remembered like him, he became a hero and a beacon of morality and justice, but to the detriment of his family. This also shows that parenting is hard, and just trying to do the opposite of your parents doesn't equate to good parenting. Sheldon's work kept him from his children a lot, which impacted their view of their father. While his work is indeed important, there is a level of neglect it caused for his children. Sheldon also became laser focused on his own set of rules and codes and has become obsessed with his legacy and what will happen when he's gone, which has caused fractures within his family. He's a good person but flawed, and I'm thrilled to see he's in therapy. I think all heroes need one, and who he chooses as a therapist is fascinating and fitting, I feel. He chose someone who won't sell him bullshit. Instead of raising children and showering them with love and attention and praise and nurturing them and supporting them in need, he focused on scolding them for not upholding his way of life even as children, which places a great burden upon them, which is not fair. He raised them as heirs and as heroes instead of children and people, and this has caused the problems we see today. Sheldon is a hero, but he's human and he makes mistakes like any human or parent would, and will be interesting to see if he changes his way of thinking in time to repair his family. Leslie Bibb plays Grace Kennedy Sampson, Lady Liberty, Sheldon's wife. I absolutely love her character. I love virtually everyone, to be honest. She's strong-willed but logical. She can see the whole picture and view things from different sides. And while she is a mother, she naturally has a softness and compassion for others that makes her so endearing and someone easy to look up to. Grace is often the mediator, torn between wearing members of her family, trying to support her husband, and while being there for her children, and sometimes the two don't go hand in hand. As the only female in the original superhero team, she was found since before they received powers to be the level-headed person, always diffusing situations, and that holds true to this day. She herself is in crisis, and while she has kept her physical strength, her will has weakened, and she's finding it harder to hold to her ideals. As someone who looks at the whole picture, she's understanding that sometimes there are exceptions to every rule, that sometimes as time changes, our ideals must change too, and how we operate must adapt. But trying to implement that is impossible when you have a hard-headed husband. Grace is constantly pulled in different directions, trying to be there for everyone, but we see she's quite alone with no one being there for her. She gives her husband counsel, but when she is in need, she finds herself alone with no one to turn to. Grace carries the weight of the world, of her family, and finds herself unable to fix either. We slowly see her tapping into her old self, standing up to her own thoughts and beliefs against her husband, and it will be interesting to see where her character goes. She loves her family fiercely and is loyal, and the love is there, but the conflicts within the family are pulling everyone apart. Andrew Horton plays Brandon Sampson, the Paragon, the son of Sheldon and Grace, a second-generation superhero struggling to live up to the expectations laid upon him. Imagine being born to the two most powerful and famous superheroes in the world and being told since birth that that was what was expected of you, whether you liked it or not. It's a wonder the kid hasn't gone off the deep end, and Brandon is loyal and devoted to his family, but he is constantly trying to prove himself and prove he is worthy of not just his father's respect, but of his love, and he's always coming up short. His father criticizes everything he does, nitpicks everything. If Brandon is in crisis and reflecting on actions that to any normal person would be hard to deal with, his father, instead of showing comfort and support, berates him and points out his failures, never commending him for his successes, never once just showing him he's proud. He set unfair standards for his son and not thinking about the greatest difference between them. Sheldon and the rest of the Union earned their powers, and when they got them, chose to become heroes and save the world. Sheldon's children were born with powers and not given a choice. He removed their choice and then expects them to be okay with it. Brandon acts okay, but he struggles every day. He believes in what they do, but you can see so much of him just wishes once his father would treat him like a son and not a successor. It doesn't help that poor Brandon is being manipulated by outside influences. Elena Kampouris plays Chloe Sampson, Sheldon and Grace's daughter, who rebelled against her family and the family business for a life of modeling and drugs, and it's not going well for her. Chloe is a very complicated character, and I have two opposing feelings towards her. On one hand, I greatly appreciate this show for showing a very real aspect of addicts and addiction. There is a misconception with a lot of people that addiction only affects people who come from poverty or middle-class families, have little to no education, or have suffered trauma in their life. It's a very damaging misconception that has made the subject of addiction looked down upon. Addiction can affect anyone. It does not care about your bank account, gender, or race, and Chloe is a great example. Chloe came from a tight-knit family, a brother she was very close with, friends who she was close with. She never had to hide her powers, and she had two parents who are still together and in love, and she was born with money and opportunity, and yet look at how she turned out. all because she couldn't handle the stress and expectations her father put on her, the ideals he forced upon her. She was never allowed to make mistakes, to be imperfect, to have her own dreams and aspirations, never allowed to dream of a different path, not allowed to think or act beyond what her father expected of her, and to a degree her mother, and because of that she began to suffocate and crack under the pressure and weight of these things. She rebelled against the family business, chose a path as far opposite as she could without turning into a supervillain, and she turned to drugs as a way to detach from her life and cope with her issues. This is very human at its core, and it's honest. That doesn't mean we're supposed to like Chloe. I personally can't stand her. I've known people like her, and so it hits and frustrates me, but there's nothing fake or unrealistic about her. Her family still love her, her family still care, her friends try to help her, she still has every chance to do better, be better, and have support, which many don't have any of those things, and she rejects it. She wants people to think the worst of her, and if it kills her, so be it. Every comment is an affront to her. She's also a hypocrite. She criticizes everyone for being obsessed with her parents, not realizing she is obsessed with them too, obsessed with hating them, that is. Any comment or question thrown her way, she immediately associates with her parents. She blames everything on them, or she just assumes everyone hates her because she didn't do what mommy and daddy said. Now, yes, sometimes people use her because of her parents, but sometimes people just don't like her because she, as she says, she's an asshole, and she does it on purpose to push people away. She rejects kindness and compassion and then gets angry saying no one cares about her. She doesn't want the life of a superhero, but she has sure cashed in and built a living off being the daughter of one. Her name is why she had a career, not for her modeling abilities. She condemns everything about her family but uses them to her advantage and abuses the kindness of others around her while claiming the world is so unfair to her, which she does to herself. Classic personality of an addict, blaming everyone but themselves. Always looking out, never looking in. As I said, she's very realistic, but I still can't like her because I've known people like her. People who, even when they do the worst and hurt people, are given chance after chance to do better and won't, and instead hurt and punish those around them and slowly destroy everyone and everything around them with their behavior. Her addiction was born from a real issue, but does it warrant the hatred and loathing she has for her family and the complete disregard for those who have never been cruel to her? No! Once again, it's all real. Doesn't mean I can stomach watching her make everything about her every second of the day and just treat people so horribly and walk around with these insane double standards. It will be interesting to see where she goes, either becoming the real superhero everyone needs right now or a supervillain. Ben Daniels plays Walter Sampson, Brainwave, Sheldon's older brother, a fascinating duplicitous character who I'm very interested to see in what happens with him. He also looks like Sting. I can't say the reveal about his character was shocking. I expected it from the very first episode. There were plenty of clues to tell you this guy isn't all he appears. He's very smart and cunning, but he has an end game. He may be gaining in years, but he's still got his wits and he'll use them. Walter has a great deal of resentment for his little brother, which I'm sure he suppressed for a time, but I think he's done suppressing it. During the series so far, one thing is clear. Sheldon is a bit selfish. He may not think he is, but he is. Since they were children, their father favored Sheldon over Walter, even though Walter was the firstborn. Walter has always had to be there for Sheldon and do for Sheldon, but not once have we seen Sheldon return the favor. When Walter has needed him, he was abandoned. Walter has had to sacrifice and compromise for his little brother, and Sheldon never had to do the same. Walter always saw the bigger picture, the endgame, and no one ever listened or took him seriously, and you can see the emotional and mental effect that has had on him. Someone who was never heard or valued, given the power to make people listen to him. It's quite poetic. Walter has supported Sheldon through everything. He gives counsel to his family and he's taken for granted. Imagine that for 100 years. Eventually, enough is enough. Walter hides a very cruel and dark side, and I think the fact his family never considered his thoughts and feelings led him down this path. Because of this, family means little to him, even that of his own child, who he pretty much discarded. Good or evil, it was clear he had little interest in his child, and the sad thing is the rest of the family discarded her too. So her path of murder is hardly shocking. She grew up unwanted and unloved by the people who are meant to stand for everything good in the world. that level of rejection would fuck you up. I can attest to that. Even looking back at when Sheldon and Walter lost their father, the whole time we see this arc, we see everyone tending to Sheldon as he grieved, everyone making sure he was okay, worrying about his feelings, but no one doing the same for Walter. Walter was forced to grieve alone. The brilliance of this show is everyone's motivations and actions come from such real and relatable places that even if you don't like a character's personality, you can 100% understand why they are the way they are, why they have the beliefs they do, and it makes them really easy to follow and invest in terms of the entire story. Now, of course, we follow various other members of the team, such as Fitz Small, the Flair, played by Mike Wade, an engineer, an inventor, and a pioneer in his day, a black superhero in the 1930s, I'm sure turned heads. He wanted to make a difference and make his country better, especially for people like him, and he was given the chance to do that, given the power to be seen and heard and taken seriously. Sadly, he is now a paraplegic, but he's not useless. He's disabled, but still a superhero. He is smart and uses his skills to create tech for the Union. He still has his powers, which he uses when he needs them. He is still a vital member of the team and one of the few voices of reason among it. Like the others, his daughter was born with his powers, though he never forced the superhero life on her. She, Petra, the Flair too, played by Tanika Davis, admired her father enough and his beliefs and what he stood for that she joined and took up his mantle willingly. While she's fortunate to have her father's love and support, she struggles with the code of the Union in this day and age and is unsure if superhero life is something she can handle, and she has her father guiding her along the way. They have a lovely relationship built on love and trust and respect, and she is as level-headed as her father. She's human, having human doubts, but she's loyal and caring and has proven crucial to the team several times. They show the other side of generational superheroes, and we also get to see that being disabled doesn't stop you from being a superhero, and it doesn't stop you being useful. Yes, I would compare Fitz to the Oracle or even Professor X, but it's still important to have these characters and to continue to normalize disabilities. We have a lot of stories that are in the background slowly working their way to the front. The story behind supervillain Blackstar and what role he plays in the events to follow. George Hutchins, Sky Fox, Sheldon's oldest and closest friend, who allegedly went evil and went missing. Not everything is what it seems with him, and his son Hutch is clearly the key to that. Hutch is a villain with no superpowers who is searching for his father. He uses the Power Rod formerly used by Blue Bolt, but we have no idea what happened to Blue Bolt or how Hutch came into possession of the Power Rod, an item that allows the user to teleport anywhere. More is to be revealed about these characters, and I feel the common denominator with them is Walter, and I'm excited to see where it goes. This is without a doubt one of the most inclusive superhero lineups I've ever seen. Superheroes of every gender and race and sexuality working side by side, and none of it is forced. It's just happening how it should be happening, and I love it and I want more of it. There are so many characters to connect with, so many stories to connect with, and I feel there is something in here for everyone. It's both a modern superhero story crossing over with its own origin story, and I love it. I do hope to find out more about their origins because things are still unclear to me. The series is called Jupiter's Legacy, but it looked like they were on a moon of Jupiter, so where did these powers really come from? Why were these 6 chosen? Were they told what to do? Were they told what their powers and nicknames would be? They kind of got thrown into a situation with zero understanding, very randomly, then given powers they were never told they'd have from an entity they were never introduced to. And I think that more than just the 6 of them were affected by the cosmic blast that gave them their powers, it did look like we were hinted at the folks on the boat being affected too, so I am looking forward to seeing more stories from the past and more explanation about where this power comes from and who it comes from and why. Either way, this is a fantastic series. 8 episodes were not nearly enough. I want and crave more. I love the story. I love the characters. I love the themes, the subjects it covers. It really dives into a behind the scenes look at the life of superheroes, and I think that's amazing. The performances are top notch. I live for the costumes. They are not shying away from looking like comic book superheroes, and I love it and I want more of it. Sheldon could learn to brush his hair, but that's not that relevant. I love that these superheroes heroes are capable of being hurt. They're durable but not impervious. It ups the stakes and shows the genuine risk they're taking with their own lives for the greater good. They can be broken and bruised and scarred and still keep fighting. That's a very empowering message. I love the inclusivity. I love the effects, the psychology. I love that in the first few minutes, Brandon gets his ass kicked in a fight which causes destruction of property, and Sheldon tells Brandon he's paying for the repairs. Harsh that he didn't care his son got beaten up, but it's nice that someone cares about the destruction of public property, and these guys pay out of pocket, not the taxpayer, which is lovely. Thank you for addressing this. At the end of the day, I highly, highly, highly recommend this series, and I am dying to see more of it because this was awesome. Seriously, like I said, I binged it in a single night. It was released. It was so good. Yeah, I was glued to the screen from the very first episode. I couldn't get enough. I don't have a single con watching it, you know. Sometimes I was going through and I'm just like, how do I feel about that? And then within a few minutes I'm like, nah, I love it. So yeah, I'm obsessed. I want more of this show. 8 episodes, so not enough. Definitely need more. But that is it for this review. If you have seen Jupiter's Legacy, please comment down below and tell me what you thought about it. Are you excited for a second season? Because I know I am. Yeah, what were your thoughts on it? Please let me know. But that is it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching and supporting this video and supporting my channel just by clicking on it. It means the world to me. But that is it. Stay safe, stay happy. Watch TV, watch movies, and I hope to see you in my next video. And until then, bye!